What's up, Tsla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm also going to talk about why some analysts are saying that Tesla could be running to $400 a share, what's happening with the market in terms of data and such, and what you should be watching for as time goes on for the charts. But just know that I am not a financial planner, so make sure you take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total, not to mention 8.1% APY on invested cash. The offer ends very soon in just 2 weeks. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with the markets. Overall, Tesla is very, very bullish. We saw a little bit of a dip only to get bought back up. Tesla did remain range bound for most of the day, but it still held up very nicely, closing up over 9%. Even during the after hours, it's still continuing to push, despite the fact that the market had less volume for today. So today is Veterans Day in the USA. I just want to say a big appreciation to all the veterans out there for your services. Your services, your hard work, and your sacrifices were not in vain. I believe the future of our country is still very bright. I just wanted to give you guys a lot of honor on a day just like this. So for today, because it was Veterans Day, we saw the banks being closed and we saw the bonds market being closed. There was low volume in the markets. That's why we saw the market kind of push a bit, then start dipping. And we saw a bit of a sell-off for a lot of tickers out there. Despite that, Tesla is still strong. It's very resilient and remains very, very bullish as there's still more upside potential. So I'm going to talk more about Tesla in just a couple of minutes when it comes to the share price. Let's talk about some more Tesla news. So we had some big news that came out today. Today, Dan Ives has come out and he's saying that he's raising his price target of Tesla to $400 a share from $300, as he believes the new administration win will be a game changer for the autonomous and AI story for Tesla and Musk over the coming years. He also estimates that the AI/autonomous opportunity is worth more than $1 trillion alone for Tesla. So that's very, very bullish news that came out by Dan Ives, once again raising his target. His $300 price target was correct. We did surpass that. Now he's raising the target all over again. Now, he also did call out the fact that the new administration is not going to be perfect for the EV sector. There's going to be some hardships coming because of tariffs that are going up, not to mention it changes to EV rebates and tax incentives. However, he believes that it's going to be a huge positive for Tesla for the price/scale advantage, and also because of how it's going to be affecting AI due to deregulations and factors like that. That's very important. I actually have the tweet right over here from him, believing it's going to be a price target. This is not, he's just keeping this as his 12-month price target, not to say that this is all it's going to be going to. This is just where he thinks it's going to be going for the time being. And if we hit 400, he could raise his target again to 500, 600, whatever it takes. But for now, we're just going to take it one step at a time. We're taking baby steps. The next target's 400. If that breaks, we go up to 500 and 600. The list goes on. But for now, we are bullish, and Tesla does have a lot more upside potential. I also want to call out Kathy Wood. She did talk about this as well. I went over more details about what she said on Bloomberg during my second video of the day, my second to last video as well. So if you guys want more details, you guys could check that out. She was basically going on about how during the next administration, we're going to be looking for some new changes coming to regulations. And she believes that Elon Musk is going to play a vital role, not by being a part of everything directly, but more like being an overseer. So that's something that she is pursuing. She also believes it's going to be very bullish for Tesla's long term, especially as they develop AI. And she continues to say that she's very bullish on the robotaxi. So she is very consistent on her words. Okay, so the news is always going to scream Kathy Wood selling her Tesla shares, this and that. I saw more headlines that said that. I went over this. Don't worry, guys. The stake that ARK is holding is massive. It's worth almost $950 million. They're holding $950 million, almost $1 billion worth of Tesla. It's not necessarily like, that they're, if they're selling just like $20 million worth or $5 million worth, it's actually very minuscule compared to how many they're holding. So don't let that change your view. She's a big Tesla bull. Her entire view of Tesla being bullish is very, very consistent, and Tesla remains very strong. We have 208 million in volume. That's more than double the average volume we tend to get. That's very bullish for Tesla stock. Your short volume is once again in a very interesting place. And then on top of this, don't forget that Bank of America Securities is giving Tesla a buy rating. That remains very, very bullish. So that's what's happening, at least for the time being. It makes Tesla remain very bullish. This trend is very strong, and it's going to continue this pump. So the question is, what data comes out tomorrow? Will that affect Tesla in the markets? Let's talk about that now, and then I'll break down more details about the share prices. So for the whole market, okay, consumer durables were green for the most part. Tesla led the way up almost 9%, but we saw a lot of tickers in the red. If you look at tech, we saw Nvda, Apple, Microsoft, and a few more kind of slowing down, not to mention the Amazons out there. Health technology was kind of flat, and then we saw retail flats as well, with the finance being more in the green. So very, very mixed markets. Some sectors were weak, some were strong. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Today, there was no data that came out because of Veterans Day, but for tomorrow, it's going to be Tuesday, November 12th, 2024. At 10 a.m., we have Waller giving a speech. Then we have Barkin giving a speech at 10:15 a.m. Then we have some bill auctions coming in at 11:30 a.m. And then we have a bunch of Fed speakers like Cash Kari giving speeches. So a bunch of Fed speakers tomorrow is all we're basically getting. We'll see what that leads to. Greed is still very, very present in this market, especially for stocks like Tesla. Yes, the market's dipping a bit. It could dip a little bit more, but I still think there will be buyers that return. We're at extremes in terms of momentum. SPY, the S&P 500 are near the 6,000 area. SPY is near 600. Very, very psychological levels just to call out. The put to call option ratio is dipping a little bit because we're seeing a lot of shorts being closed. There's a lot of hedging going on, and lots of people are going long in the market, buying the dips as puts and shorts are being closed. The VIX is at support between 14 and 15. It loves to bounce off that. We'll see what kind of reaction we get. On top of all of this, just know that in terms of our earnings calendar, okay, we just have Zeta and Grab announcing earnings. We talked about Monday.com in the morning. It's all very, very minor for today. I'm not going to focus too much on that. But tomorrow, just know we have Shopify, Home Depot, and Hertz announcing earnings, not to mention SoundHound and a few more. And then later on for Thursday and Friday, we have Disney and then Alibaba announcing earnings. So just keep that in mind. Anyways, that is it for the news involving Tesla and what's happening with the markets thus far. Now I just want to kind of ignore everything else, just focus on the technical analysis aspect of my video and talk about what's happening with the share prices. So if you look at the 4-hour in Tesla, it's bullish, right? We were at the 240 area less than a week ago, like a week and a half ago, we were all the way down here. Ever since the election, we just saw Tesla skyrocket, and it's going to continue to run as time goes on. So it's very, very bullish right now. If you look at the daily time frame, it's also looking very, very strong, and there's no sign of a big rejection quite yet. Looking at the 5 minutes on Tesla, we were range bound because of less volume, but it's still pushing in the after hours, so it still looks very strong. Tomorrow morning, Tesla will most likely be pushing higher. We have tough resistance around 357.5 and 360 as resistance. If it breaks 360, we go up to 365 pretty easily, then even well above that into the 368 area. If we're bearish, you want to see Tesla lose 351. If 350 to 351 fails us, we're going to be dipping back down towards 344. Then there's 341 and all the way back down to the lowest of the day if that fails us. So overall, those are your levels, but just know that Tesla looks very, very bullish so far. I think tomorrow morning we're going to be pushing higher for 360, maybe even try to break past that. 360 to 365 could be coming. Then we could slow down intraday back down towards the 350 area. Maybe a little bit below that before it tries to bounce again. And overall, it remains bullish. So look for a pump tomorrow morning, a little bit of a dip as time goes on with the market, then it's going to likely continue to push. And I think that Tesla will continue to rally as there's no sign of rejection. There's no sign of Tesla getting a big rejection here. There's no sign of a slowdown. It looks very strong. We're getting good volume, and the share price looks bullish in my opinion. For SPY, just know this. We are looking a little bit weaker right here. It might dip a little bit more compared to the market. We have this resistance to watch for around 599 essentially. If that breaks, we look for 600 and 601. I know those are just $1 areas, but that's what we're kind of respecting as we're hitting new all-time highs. If we lose 598.2, we're looking for essentially 597, and below that we have this imbalance around 595. I believe that SPY may actually slow down on the 4-hour time frame, and we have a target all the way back down towards 597.5. So I think we could be dipping to the 597s tomorrow, and we have to see if we bounce off 597 flat or not. If we don't bounce off 597, we're going to be dipping back down to 595, and then we'll see if we bounce off that. We should bounce off one of those levels, but look for a little bit more downside before some buyers try to defend us, the most likely cases. So watch the levels I called out. Just know there is a risk of a little bit more downside before we see a big reaction to one of these supports. ES has the same setup. We are slowing down a little bit. We could be on our way back down closer to 6,000 flats. Just keep that in mind. And if that fails us, we have essentially 59.94. I think that this might slow down closer to 6,000 flats, 6,020 and 6,000, that range. And we'll see if we get a bounce off that or not. But look for a big test tomorrow, most likely on ES, for a little bit of a dip before we see a big reaction from there. For Nvda, Nvidia is trying to hold 145 near our 20 EMA. If that fails us, we're going to be looking for essentially 143.8, then 142 flat. If we try to bounce, we're looking for 146. If that breaks, we're looking for a move back up towards 148. We're kind of range bound right here, but I wouldn't be surprised if we actually see a reaction right here near the 20 EMA. So look at the 20 EMA. We could attempt to rebound just a bit. What tends to happen when we hit these supports, we do try to rebound a little bit for 147 or so. So we might be looking for a push for the 147s and a slowdown again. And a lot of sideways price action for now on Nvidia, as long as we don't lose 145. So I think 145 to 148 is where the range is going to be. We could lose that support and dip lower if that fails, but I think we're going to most likely just be range bound. For others out there, we have Bitcoin, which is on fire. This is exploding, and we're looking for 90,000 to potentially break. If that breaks, we could even be on our way up to 100,000 very soon. We're not going to stretch too much, though. Let's just look for 90,000, see if that breaks. If 90,000 breaks, we're looking for 92,500. It's bullish. It's very strong. If we lose 88,000, though, I'll be looking for this move back down to 86,250. But overall, it's favoring upside. Looks like it wants to keep going. Look for a test of 90,000 very, very soon. For other tickers out there, we have NQ. NQ is range bound right here. We have this resistance to watch for around 21,250. Our support to watch for is at 21,162. We're range bound. It could be making a lower high here. So if it does push a little bit tomorrow morning, it could make a lower high and start tipping close to 21,100 flats before we get a big bounce again. This is forming kind of like a lower high structure, so it might push a bit to make a lower high, then dip down before it tries to bounce. So watch and see some sideways price action on NQ. I wouldn't be surprised if we actually dip just a bit because of what we saw from Apple and what we may end up seeing from like Nvidia later on. So it might make a lower high before it starts to turn back down to our next support into the lower 21,100 area before we try to bounce again. The QQQ is also kind of curling right here. We have 515 as resistance, not to mention 517. Our support to watch for is going to be at around 512. I think we could be testing 515 and we'll see what kind of reaction we get. If it's 515, we could reject and start tipping back down towards the 512 area. So it could kind of pop and then dip a little bit lower, especially after this big red bar. There is a risk of the QQQ dipping a little bit more before we see some buyers defend it. So there is a risk of it dipping and look for a rebound tomorrow morning, then a dip lower. And then we will see what happens where the buyers try to defend us. For Apple loves 220. It loves to bounce off 220 historically. We're not quite there yet. We're very close to it. Watch resistance at 225. We might try to push for 225 tomorrow morning, then start dipping lower. If we make our way move back down to 220, we could try to bounce off that. If we break 226.5, we could push higher. As of right now, we're making lower highs. So we had like this high here, came down, made a lower high, came down, made a lower high. So I think we might try to push a bit, then kind of curl here and make our move back down to 220 before we try to bounce again. So overall, we'll just have to see how things end up going. But we're just range bound, in my personal opinion. I think that Apple might try to push and then start tipping lower to the 220 area before we see some buyers try to defend it all over again. For NVIDIA, NEO has a head and shoulders like structure that's developing. We do have Alibaba's earnings at the end of the week, which that could affect us because of the fact that the Chinese stimulus that came out was not really meeting expectations. We're seeing the share price dipping a little bit. So we want to see it break past, it's basically range bound between 5 and 5.3. May just continue to be range bound for now, but if we lose 5 and 4.9, we will see the head and shoulders most likely play out. Otherwise, it's just range bound. I do want to call out Netflix. It's actually doing better than what I was predicting. I was talking about how there might be tough resistance during a test at 800. We're actually breaking past 800. So, we have the Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson fight, which is huge. It's going to be a big event. There's also other fighters that are going to get involved in that. It's very, very big. And that's part of the reason why Netflix is running. It could run to 810 if that ends up breaking. As long as you don't lose 800, the share price remains more bullish. For Celsius, we're on a bit of a downtrend right here, making lower highs and lower lows. Could retest 28, then kind of reject and start dipping lower, back down to 26.5 as the most likely case. Palantir is looking quite good, but just know we have tough resistance at 62. I think that we could look for a retest into the 61s before he starts dipping a little bit lower, and we could be seeing 59.5 all over again, just being range bound. Look for a pop and a dip back down for a lot of sideways price action, and give this the time that it needs, as that's going to be very, very important. For others out there, we have Supermicro. Supermicro is on a bit of a downtrend right over here. We are range bound here, but one thing worth mentioning about Supermicro is we're trying to bounce off 20. We like to base off 20, and we have resistance at 25. So I think we're just going to be range bound between 20 and 25 for some time. Whichever way we break will determine what a bigger move is going to be. Otherwise, we're just kind of stuck. Rivian's trying to push it. There's a possible breakup, but we have a big test coming tomorrow. Look for 11.22 to be tested at our 20 EMA or the 200 EMA. If we break 11.22, we're launching up for the highs over here, closer to $12, like 11.8 to 12 is coming. If we reject off 11.22, we kind of pop here and reject. We're looking for a move back down to about 10.6 to 10.5. So with this accumulation, a nice little rebound attempt that's trying to form, I see upside potential. We'll see if that ends up being the case. So give this the time it needs, as we're going to be very, very patient. For SoFi, we're trying to push higher. We're going to be watching this resistance around 14.5. Our support's going to be down here around 13.67. That's our range. It looks bullish overall, but if we lose 13.6, I do think this might be dipping to fill the gap to about 13 flat. So watch for that carefully. I think it's going to be dipping a little bit, and we'll see if we get a bounce off 13.8 to continue to push for 15. SoFi is very bullish. It does look like it has potential to continue to pump. As long as we don't lose 13.6, I think we might be kind of dipping a bit, then trying to bounce higher for 14.5 and potentially even 15. For the IWM Russell 2000, I just want to say this is also doing a good job at holding up. We're range bound right now. 242 is our resistance and 240 is our support. If we break 242, we're looking for a push for 244. If we lose 240, we're going to be looking for a move back down to 238, all the way down to fill this gap. Could go either way. We're just kind of shuffling here. That's all we did today. Volume is kind of slowing, which is not the best of signs. So we'll see what happens. I think it just might be range bound between 240 and 244 for now, and we'll see what happens from there. For AMD, this is going to try to rebound a bit. We could be looking for a retest of 148. We'll see if we reject or not. Might try to pop for 148, and we'll see what happens from there. So give this a little bit more time to develop. So look for a little bit more upside, and we'll see if we get a rejection moving forward. For ARM, we're kind of on a bit of a downtrend. Might try to bounce though, because it does love to bounce around the 140 area. So it might be looking for a test of 143.69 to 144, and we'll see if it rejects. Give that some time. Coinbase is more bullish, trying to approach that 340 area. There's no sign of rejection as we're pushing with Bitcoin. So I think 340 is coming. And if that breaks, we're looking for 344 and eventually 350. So it remains more bullish. Amazon's going to be testing 205. We'll see if we bounce off 205 or not. Look for a little bit more downside and see what kind of reaction we get off our 20 EMA. If 205 fills us, we dip down to 202, then eventually 200. If we bounce off 205, we're going back up to 208 plus. Look for 205 and see if we bounce. So give this some time. Meta's on a bit of a downtrend. We're looking for a test of 580, then 578. Those are going to be our two supports. I think this range is going to be tested. We'll see if we get a bounce off this or not. If we lose 578, though, there's going to be a dip back down to this imbalance, taking us all the way down to 572. Look for a dip to 578 and see what kind of reaction we get. So be very patient and keep that in mind. For Microsoft, we're dipping a little bit lower. We have 420 as our resistance, not to mention to move back down here towards 414. We could be dipping lower towards 416 to 414. We'll see if we get a bounce or not, but give this the time it needs. For Google, we have a nice looking cup and handle like structure that's starting to develop. We will see if we break past this resistance. I do think it's going to push a little bit more to about 183, a little bit under 183. Will we break it? We'll have to see. If we break that, I think we push for 185 plus. If not, this is going to be dipping, so give it a little bit more time. We called out the memes yesterday. GameStop is trying to push. As long as we don't lose 25, I think we favor a move back up to 30. So I do see some more upside potential in GameStop. AMC is trying to follow GameStop, but it depends on if we could break 4.49 or 200 EMA. That's what's slowing it down here. If we break 4.49, we push back up to about 4.8 and then a 5. If it rejects off 4.49, we're going to be dipping back down. This is favoring upside a little bit more, so we'll see how things end up going. DJT is kind of trading sideways in a range right now. There's going to be a test of 34.1 tomorrow. If that breaks, we push higher for 37. If not, we're going to be dipping lower. So I do see some consolidation, maybe a small push. The VIX is kind of flat right now, not really doing much. We'll see if we get a bounce on the VIX or not, so give it some time to develop. The 10-year Treasury yield is also not really doing much. It's not really affecting the market as much as it typically does. So I'm not too worried about that, guys. Just want to keep that in mind. That's what we're essentially seeing that's going on. There's not really a whole lot going on with that. The dollar, lastly, is also not really doing much. It's kind of flat. So we're just going to wait and see how things end up developing. With that being said, guys, I thank you all so much for listening. Hope you guys have a great day. I will be back tomorrow before the market opens to give you guys more updates on what's happening with the markets. Until then, I hope you guys have a very, very great day. If you guys have the day off for Veterans Day, please enjoy your day off. If you're working, it is what it is, guys. Please have a great day nonetheless. Just so you guys know, Tesla remains very strong, lots of momentum, very, very bullish. There's a good chance it's going to continue this run going into tomorrow. The 360s could be coming, so get ready for that. And Tesla's doing a great job so far. We could be on our way even like up to 400, but let's not just go straight to 400. We're going to just take it one level at a time. So we're going to be looking at the 360s. Tesla's very bullish, and we'll give it the time it needs. Thank you for listening, guys. Have a great day. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a great holiday weekend if you guys do have a holiday today, and peace out.